Good morning, Pastor Keith Hodges here, and I want to welcome you to the Fruitful 5 minutes that will empower and equip you to live your life for Jesus Christ. And today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects. Let's talk a little bit this morning about sweet tea. Now, if you're from the South, you understand how important sweet tea is. It's really one of the commodities that really makes up who we are as Southerners. And one of the biggest challenges I found as I began to travel and kind of go over the United States is the further north you get, the more disconnected you get from the reality of sweet tea. And this morning, I want to encourage you that there is an illustration through sweet tea that really is critical to what God wants to do in our life. See, if you've ever made good old Southern homemade sweet tea, you understand that it takes a lot of sugar, and you're going to pour that sugar into your container, and then you're going to heat up your tea, and you're going to bring it just to that perfect boil and let the consistency come and the flavors and all those bags really just begin to pour out. And then you're going to pour that hot tea into that container with that abundance of sugar. And then you're going to do the most important part. You're going to stir it up. See, the reality is if you don't stir up that sweet tea, then all that sugar goodness that you've put in there that's intended to saturate that tea and bring flavor to the hearts and lives of people that drink it is going to be untasted and untouched if it never gets stirred up. And this morning in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 6, the Apostle Paul encourages Timothy to really connect to some sweet tea. I want you to see what he says. He says, "Therefore I remind you to stir up the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands." Paul told Timothy, I want you to stir up the gift of God that is within you. He was giving him an encouraging word, a challenging word to say, you know what, Timothy? There are some gifts within you. There are some things that are intended to flavor the world around you. There are some sweet goodness that God has divinely deposited on the inside of you. And Paul said, you know what? I want to remind you, stir it up. See, I want you to understand something today. I believe that an unstirred gift, a gift that is not stirred up for the glory of God, really becomes a dormant weight of frustration. I believe there are many Christians today that are frustrated, and I believe they don't even know why. They're frustrated with their lives, they're frustrated with their families, they're frustrated on their jobs, and they really don't even understand what is the root of my frustration. I believe that the root of many Christians' frustration is that they have not stirred up the gift of God that's within them. They have not stirred up that sweet goodness that God has divinely deposited in their life. And unfortunately, everything that God has put in them has begun to settle seemingly to the bottom. And that thing that was supposed to excite them, empower them, and bring enthusiasm into their life has become the point of frustration. Why? Because they're not operating in the gift that God created them to operate in. And so I want to just give you a simple thought this way. How do we stir up the gift of God that is within us? Now, we understand without a doubt we can pray and we can worship and we can get in the Word, and all those things are essential to you and I stirring up the gift of God. But there's one critical thing that's really important. The only way, I want you to hear this, the only way that you can really effectively stir up the gift of God that's within you is that you have to use the gift that God's given you. You got to begin to use the gift. If you've got the gift of encouragement, you got to encourage somebody. If you've got the gift of mercy, you've got to show compassion to somebody. If you have the gift of leadership, you got to lead somebody. If you've got the gift of teaching, you got to teach somebody, right? Because unless you use the gift that God's given you, you're not going to stir it up. It'll never be activated. It'll never begin to feel and permeate your life. And here's the reality. It'll never touch anybody else's life. See, the reality is that the sugar in the sweet tea is only good to the person that's drinking it. Sweet tea doesn't need to be sweet in and of itself. The purpose of sweet tea is to bring flavor and life to those who drink of it. And I want to encourage you in this. God wants your life to bring flavor and life to other people. Those that would begin to drink deeply of the well of what God has done in you. So how does that happen? Stir up the gift of God. I want to encourage you this morning. Begin to use the gift God has given you. Find a place, find an avenue, find a venue, and stir up the gift of God that's on the inside of you. God bless you this morning.